I would rather do everything right, leave no crumbs behind, and understand that at the end of the day, maybe the better man didn't win.
Welcome to It's Not About the Fight. I'm Ross Cameron, martial artist, coach, and lifelong student of combat sports. I've had the privilege of being able to work with some of the best in the industry, UFC champions, world-class jiu-jitsu competitors, and elite martial artists from all over the world. Now I'm bringing those lessons to you. Let's get to work.
So I'm here with Eric Nicksick from Extreme Couture, and thanks for coming down and having a chat and visiting the gym. I want to talk to you about really some of the mental stuff that goes into the fight game, not so much the what happens in the fight, but how do you deal with, say, a fighter that overconfident or cocky or something like that?
Well, I think that confidence is something that, you need as a fighter, as most guys need. But the overconfidence and where it can be a problem is the lack of training because of that.
Yeah.
Or they think that, I don't have to do these certain things because I've already, done X, Y, and Z. That's where it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think in dealing with those guys, a lot of times it's simple conversations, or not only that, just putting them in scenarios maybe where you can maybe break some of that confidence. And that happens a lot of times too with failure and losing a fight and seeing that, hey, the things I've been doing are more of an eye opener rather than, something you have to rewrite the whole script again,
Yep. And then the other end of that, you've got the guys that don't have it. And how do you build the confidence in those guys? Is it the same sort of thing where you put them in the scenario and build it?
Yeah, I think that too, like where you're put them in a situation where that there's guys in the room that maybe have a better resume but that kid can compete with those guys, and put him around individuals that are going to elevate his game. And all of a sudden he starts realizing his full potential or knowing what he's capable of. But man, like I'll tell you what, this fight game is such a brutal sport because you can see a guy do everything correctly, do a camp perfectly, and go into a fight and the outcome not be desired.
The chaos causes the issue. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Percent.
Yeah.
So there's just like no method to the madness mentality to it. But I tell the guys all the time is I would rather do everything right, leave no crumbs behind, and understand that at the end of the day, maybe the better man didn't win, right? But I exhausted every option that I had in front of me to make the position I have to win a fight.
Do everything you possibly can to achieve what the goal was, but not actually get there is such a hard thing for people to take.
Right. I would much rather have that than be the guy who half-assed it and then lose, and then like you have to lay your head on the pillow at night and go, man, I could have done way more.
Yeah, I ask that question every night when they go to bed. I could have done, I should have done. Yeah, where you actually go through and force them to think about it, right, achieve it.
Hard work does not guarantee success, but it puts you in the best possible position to achieve it, right? Like you're not guaranteed it, but I'd rather get all that out of the way, work hard, because we've had those, scenarios. I would say any Dan Ige loss has been, they hurt, but you also go, well, this dude did everything he could within his power, right? To
achieve it. Yep. Yeah. I've had fighters that should win a fight. They do everything to win the fight, and then they try something in the middle of the fight that's not in the game book, hasn't been in the plan. We've not rehearsed it. I just thought I'd give this a try. Yeah. And then you sit there and go, well, yeah. So the other thing, the mentality that comes to dealing with a fighter directly after a loss, when they're sitting in their back room and they're soul searching, how do you handle that?
God, I don't think you ever get used to it. I really don't. And I tell guys all the time that, I get frustrated when I see guys or girls lose a fight and they immediately think about like going out.
Yep.
Like, oh, well, that sucked, but the after party's over here, then go grab like, no, like don't get used to losing. Like losing is going to happen. It's a byproduct of competition.
Yep.
But don't be okay with it. Like it should hurt.
Yeah.
Right. Like it should hurt for a while. Like Chris Curtis lose a fight. That's a nightmare. However long, right?
I still remember all my losses in fights very, very vividly.
Sure.
I don't remember my wins, I remember my losses.
Because the pain, the hurt.
Yeah.
So, you deal with it as a coach. You try to be supportive and really, moreover, soul search yourself as a coach, like the accountability, like what could have I done better? What areas could have I've made improvements on for my fighter? Did we get out coached? Was it just a, bad decision, luck of the draw, whatever, one of those things. But it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And as a coach, you got to be somewhere right there in the middle. Because that happens for me in the fight game. I'll have a guy on the card and he'll be lower on the card. Like we had Puna fight. He started the main card. And then there was a fight in between us. And we had Chris Curtis. And Puna just came off a great knockout. And then there was a fight between us. And then Chris lost in the last second, whatever, close fight versus Roman Kopylov. But that could be either way. Like you can come in too high and lose focus because you're still high off a win, or you can come in too low and you're depressed, and your next fighter is going to feel off that energy.
And like you say, as a coach, you're trying to find that middle ground, so you're not hyping your guy too high. You're not pulling him down. You're trying to keep that middle ground. You're trying to keep calmness, the focus, keep them in the same zone that they need to be in, and you do your job. And do you find that's achievable because you run processes?
Yeah, but like as you know, you're going to feed off of my energy as a coach and a fighter, right? Like if your coach is like super nervous or upset or happy or whatever, you're going to feed off of that. So it's those practices I think are so important, not only for us as the coach, because of that feeling you're gonna draw off of me. Like Dan Ige can walk in a room and I'll know how he is that day. That's how close you are as a coach and fighter. So a very important part of the process to me is maintaining your emotions as a coach.
So as you were saying, you're close with your fighters. You spend a lot of time with them. You develop a relationship, and you know how to push the right buttons at the right time and how to calm them at the right time. Is that a strategy you take in? Is it
communication?
Yep.
I think, as a young kid growing up playing football with for my dad, I played quarterback. And I remember to the youth program playing quarterback, I was a particular type of kid. I would just yell at everybody. And you have 10 other players on the field. Not everybody's going to respond the same way. So at a young age, it really taught me how to communicate with certain individuals and how to get the best out of that individual. Some guys you might be able to yell at, and the other guys you're going to yell at and they're going to curl up and die in the corner, right? So finding how they listen, how they communicate, how they react just takes time. And then sometimes, like I'm very rarely am I ever going to yell at Dan Ige, right? But then there's moments where I have to get in his ass and yell at him because of the seriousness of the situation.
So you find that you tailor your communication system, the style of coaching, the techniques even to the individual. So, when they say fighting's an individual sport, it takes a team to get them there, but you've got to have that communication to make sure the individual gets what they require.
100%. So Sean Strickland, you're not going to be able to keep Sean Strickland focused on a minute in between each round. So we coach him in spurts. So I've always talked to him, I don't know how many fights I've cornered him now, but I'll tell him, hey, I don't need the entire minute, but there is some pertinent information we're going to need to get across in maybe a 20, 30-second span. Well, I'll let you go be a madman after that, right?
Yep.
And knowing him and understanding his style and the way that he does fight, you get the most important thing off, and then he's going to shut it down and go off and do his own thing. He's not going to listen to you anyway.
Yeah.
I all see Sean, but
I have a quite an interesting way of cornering people. That I walk in there and I breathe, get your heart rate down, give you the 3 things I want you to do.
Sure.
I'm done. Right. Okay. You should have heard me. I'm out of there.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be in their head.
Right.
I want them in their head.
Sure.
And if they get the information, then I'm happy.
Right.
But everyone's different. You got to put it, you got to word it the right way.
I'll crack jokes at some guys, we'll get in the corner and I'll crack a joke or a one-liner at them or something that might've been personal.
Yep.
Just to kind of just take them off of the seriousness for a minute. And then there's times where you have to remain locked in. There's a moment there. Like I remember when when Francis was fighting Stipe, and I got Francis on the stool after round 1, and I was like, this is nice. I've never had you on the stool before, and he like kind of stops and looks around. He's like, yeah, no shit. Like, but there's a moment of like, just you can kind of relax a second and have a little.
Yeah. And that might be all that's needed for them to stay in there where they need to have that mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you keep the focus going over a camp when you're trying to keep the communication and the skill levels growing? Do you communicate daily with them? Do you have a plan that's written and structured? What's the best way you find to get the most out of each of you guys?
Well, it's a great question. So I'll break it down to you from the start of camp. Usually what we'll do is we'll sit down a team of coaches, or whoever is involved, and I'll ask the fighter to write out their schedule, and we'll kind of base out like their day-to-days. We'll sit down and we'll watch tape. I'll have them watch tape first on their own. I'll watch tape on my own. Then we'll watch tape together. And then we'll kind of talk about the approach. What are you seeing? What am I seeing? Right? And then whoever other coaches are involved, we'll compare our notes and we'll kind of write out a structure or gameplay. And then what I'll do is, this is the other kind of key to this, I think that's very important, is you go back and you watch your fighter. And then you try to game plan against your fighter versus what this skill set.
So you're looking at what the guy's skill set's got, where his strengths and weaknesses are, what your guy's strengths and weaknesses are, and trying to game plan both sides of it so that you can then fill the hole in your guys.
Exactly.
And attack the holes in his.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So where we can find, the path of least resistance into our game plan. And, so many times that we've come up with game plans but this is the way we're going to approach. And then all of a sudden something will pop up and we'll see a route. And we're like, oh, well, this guy can't get out of topside half guard. Well, that wasn't part of our game plan, but we just saw it in the fight. Well, let's get to that.
Yeah.
Like what we're going to call an audible here. Hey, we took the guy down, topside half guard. He had no answer for. So let's get back to this position instead of,
and makes it easier for us to set a platform and move from. Yeah.
In a lot of ways too, it's like football. If a play is working and it's hitting, why would I not go back to that play over and over until you can stop it?
Yep.
Right. So, and then that's usually how we'll base out a camp. So then, I'll look at the duration of the camps, hopefully 6 to 8 weeks. And then in between that time, I think it's very important, maybe halfway through the camp, that we call it a deload week. That's where essentially you're pretty much out of the gym completely. It's almost a restart to camp. You still keep up with all your cardio and your weight cutting and all that stuff, but maybe not a hard spar, maybe one hard practice that week, but it's like, hey, go on a hike with your wife, or do something to just take your mind off of the fight.
Go and sharpen the sword.
Sharpen the sword. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Falls used to always preach us about that. And I feel like that mentality has really helped a lot of our guys break up the monotony of an 8-week camp.
Mm-hmm.
You don't peak too soon.
Yeah.
You kind of have
gives them that mental rest within the grind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I also want each fighter to have somewhat of control as well. Like, they're the CEO of their company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there to help kind of run the company with them. But at the end of the day, they're hiring and firing these coaches as they see fit. But they need to understand the structure as well. Right now, I know I have 5 guys fighting in March. I know where everyone is at today, what their practice looks like for tomorrow, what they're doing for the rest of the week, what their sparring partners look like, because we structured it all the way till fight week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very systematic, and I think it's important. But when you have a good team around you and guys like, and other coaches that are around you that understand the game plan and the goals and everything else, I can leave town and do this.
And the team
takes it over.
Takes it over. So you were talking about sparring, and we talked earlier about a hard sparring in a gym, and sometimes you need it, but majority of the time it's skill based, and then building towards what you want to achieve.
Right.
Your thoughts on hard sparring every session?
I'm not for it now. I think when I was coming up in round Extreme Couture at a young age and watching a lot of that, and then seeing it kind of unfold to where guys were getting out of fights or pulling out of fights because of they're getting knocked out in practice, right?
Yep.
And then seeing guys lose big fights because they had so much damage throughout their camp.
Yep.
Those things started as a young coach. I started to take mental notes on those things and how can we prepare differently, prepare better. The 7-ounce gloves, I think, but made it a little bit safer, I think, for the guys' brain health.
Made the guys get more technical in what they were doing?
100% more technical, I think. And the one thing that people overlook is the defensive flaws. So when you have big gloves on the surface area, right? Like you can have your hand here and the glove will cover here. 7-ounce gloves. So like defensively, I think it helped change a lot of guys.
Yeah, because people don't realize it's a game of millimeters. And if you are used to sparring in 16-ounce gloves, it's going to leave opportunities for someone who either bare knuckles or 4-ounce gloves sliding through the hole. So the development in your sparring, I tell my guys that I try to teach them as a process that it's like playing the old Street Fighter game. I want to tag you more than you tag me. I'm scoring points. And then every time I'm doing it, I'm taking your health bar down.
Yeah, your health bar. Yeah, exactly.
And that's sparring. It's not a fight, it's a spar. So I'm trying to learn how to do that over time and get better at my skills so I can touch you, you can't touch me. And then you have some hard sparrings at the right time in your camp rather than just go hard every time.
Right.
Do you think, how do you get that across to you guys? How do you get that point that you want them to play the game in a sparring session rather than just, let's just go hard?
Well, so I have a saying to the guys to show up to sparring with a shopping list, the grocery list. And what I mean by that is the same way you show up to a grocery store. If you don't have a list, you usually go and just buy a bunch of shit you don't need. And you walk around aimlessly throughout the store. You're there for a lot longer than you're supposed to be, right? But when you show up to the store with a list, you're direct, concise, grab everything you need, and you're in and out of that store.
Yep.
Convenient, right?
That's how I shop every time.
Right. No. Yeah, barely. But I tell guys that, and even the night before, or before I do this all the time, I'm locking the guy's cage. Hey, what's on the grocery list today? Oh, coach, I wanted to land X amount of jabs. I want to score a takedown every last 30 seconds, blah, blah, whatever it is. Great. So they're showing up with a
plan. Yeah.
Plan. Now, this is the thing that I think that I've noticed the most that I get on our guys about. Guys are so infatuated with winning rounds, right? Like you're going to win what? You're going to win practice. What are you going to win? And when you're in camp, I have a feeling like, okay, yeah, I want you to win your rounds for the confident side of things. When you're outside of camp, when are you working to develop new tactics, new techniques, new procedures?
Yep.
Right? And this is the time to do it.
Yep. Because you can try something and if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But what happens is guys, they get in their egos and, oh man, that was a bad round. That was a shit round or blah, blah. Well, it's okay if you're developing your southpaw or you're trying something new. I expect you to lose rounds.
Yep.
I want you to lose rounds because you're working on something new.
I have a saying for the guys. I said, everyone knows how to ride a push bike. So why haven't you won the Tour de France?
Right.
It's a very simple act, riding a push bike.
Yeah.
But we haven't won the Tour de France. Why? Because we haven't tried it, we haven't developed it, you haven't built the skills, you haven't built the cardio.
Yeah.
It's that process to get better.
Sure.
And if you take that mentality into your sparring, then you're looking at for all the things that you want to try, you want to develop. Oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work from that angle. What have you changed angles? What have you changed heights? What have you changed levels? What have you... Start playing with it all, and then you come up with your own game that fits around what you want to do and your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just think that that's the mentality that we all have in this game. A lot of times is like the end game is to win the fight, right? But you have to let that go to develop these new things, especially outside of camp.
Yep. Yeah. It's especially the younger generation gets stuck on the Gucci thing,
right?
The thing that they just saw on Instagram, and I want to try that
wheel kick, or
cartwheel kicks, and, okay, cool.
Stick to the fundamentals first.
Yeah, but you're not actually skilled enough to try it yet.
Yes,
do the right things, build the skills, and you'll get there, and then you'll be able to pull it off. I like the saying, you don't bench press, start learning how to bench press with 100 kilos.
Right.
Yeah, you start with the bar.
Exactly.
Yeah. building up a fighter over time, do you have checks and balances in place at certain times with certain fighters to just say, hey, mate, this is where I need you to back off, or I need you to go forward, or I need you to be focusing on this sort of thing?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, after the fight, having that debrief, talking about camp, talking about the fight, win, lose, or draw. I think it's important to have that debrief, but it also gives you things for the after camp development.
Yep.
And, I use Dan Egan as an example just because I've had him for 22 pro fights, but we've developed this relationship, and he's made me a better coach. I like to believe I made him a better fighter, but through that trial and error process, after every camp, we sit down and we'll go over like, hey, here's some things I think we should work on outside of camp. So we go back and then we'll start doing some new things and start to try to build on that. And then the next time out, something different or something new. But then what it does for us too, Ross, is it gives us things that now we can incorporate into the next fight camp.
Yep.
Oh, I've seen you develop this enough. Now we can add this in. So kind of funny story, we worked a lot of southpaw. Dan's very good out of both stances, but he's not very known for being a kicker, right? He's just big hands. And so in this like past 6 months, we were working out of southpaw, the same side head kick. And this guy is actually landing it in practice. He feels great on the pads, so here we are. We fight Diego Lopez on 4 hours notice. We're going into round 2. We didn't watch much tape. Obviously, they didn't get to watch much tape. So there was a position there where Dan was flanking him out of orthodox, and then we call it, a drop step, and he allowed him to funnel him into a position where he had the cage,
yep,
the corner post. And I yell, same side. And Dan on cue throws the cross, kick comes right behind it. Diego takes his arms and doesn't crosswalk, kind of sticks his arms out. Shin goes right over the head or right over the hands, and shin bone across the forehead. And there was a second there where I'm like, holy shit, he just knocked out, Diego ends up taking him down and the head kick. And Dan ended up getting his back took for the whole second round. I sat there in the corner. I looked at Kai Kamaka, and I was like, oh, I just screwed us, man. I held that same side head kick because we thought it was there. But what happened was, in my head, I'm like, what is something that they're not going to expect?
Yep.
Because Dan has never thrown this or done this in a fight,
but he's developed the skills
to do it. And damn it, had he not almost knocked this guy out, but it landed. So we go out, and it's funny because I'm going in the stool, going into round 3, and I walk over and I said to Dan, I was like, oh, my bad, bro. And he's like, hey, it landed. So, but had it not been for the development or that tactic, he'd been working on so much, we wouldn't have ever even called it.
So we were talking earlier about developing amateurs and then into professionals and how you structure that. Do you still work the psychology for your amateurs as you do for your professionals?
I don't have a lot to do with the amateurs much anymore, but as of late, I've been really trying to make myself more available because I know eventually that is the next crop of guys that are going to come through the gym. But it's also important because they do represent us, whether I'm their coach or they're, at Extreme, they're wearing our shirt, they're at Extreme Couture, they are a part of our culture and they're a part of our responsibility too. And then furthermore, our standard is very important to me. The culture, the standard, the camaraderie, everything that we build throughout Extreme Couture. And I don't want that to be watered down through, the other coaches. So I feel like by being there or speaking with them or being a little bit more hands-on, it helps them identify what we want at that higher level.
So you were talking about community and the culture of the gym and all the rest of it. We've talked before about how important that is to you and to the gym and to the success of the gym. Do you like to see the other coaches investing time into the community and the culture of the gym and the fighters community passing on their information and sharing and stuff and building together?
Our gym success is the success of all of our coaches within that gym.
Yep.
100%. Like Danny Davis was handpicked by me. There was guys that I knew that I wanted to work with. I wanted to show up to work every day and be around these individuals. That they were not only going to make the gym better, they were going to make me better. Not only going to make me better, they're going to hold me accountable. and then I was going to hold them accountable. And that infrastructure that we have at our gym, we can interchange any one of these coaches and you would never know who the leader was of the gym.
Yeah.
Everyone is able to grab the reins. They can do anything and everything. I wanted to build something that we can all find success and we can all eat.
Yep.
Right. So, when I get paid, I want the rest of my guys to get paid and they feel like they were paid equally and fairly. I don't have this like,
hierarchy.
Yeah. I just don't have that mentality. I'm a leaders eat last guy.
Yep.
If my team's eating, I'm eating, and vice versa.
Yep. So do you think that the growth of your team and the support of your team and the leadership style you have, which is what I agree with, I think that's the most important thing. The gyms that go, I'm the god and this is all you've got, rather than you're there to support everybody do their job. What do they call it? The servant leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think there's a standard difference between gyms like that?
I think I feel I'm in a position of servitude. I'm there to serve my gym, and I want to create more leaders throughout that gym, and I want to create success throughout that gym. I love seeing the parking lot, the cars in the parking
fill up
with Raptors and G-Wagons, and Teslas and nice cars. Like I always joke around with Danny and the guys, like the parking lot, the cars are starting to
get better standards.
Yeah, it's nice, but which means that we're all everybody's in there working and everybody's growing. But I also look at some of the things with like, I would say competitive or competing gyms, other gyms, where they might only have one main coach, and that one main coach will kind of hire a couple guys here and there. But what happens is like, if a fighter doesn't get along with that main coach, they just leave. They're going to go elsewhere. And I never wanted that. Like there's so many great fighters at our gym that I don't even work with. Like we have Tatiana Suarez fighting for a title, trains at our gym. I've never held a pad for her. She's been at many of our practices. But again, like I'm not her coach, but we care just as much about her success because she's Coach Nate's.
The village mentality,
100%.
Yeah, and 100%. I think that's something that as an old school martial artist, that's where the growth in this game is in the village mentality, where everyone gets better, everyone contributes to what's getting better. The standard of skill gets better, the standard of pay gets better, the standard of training gets better. Everyone's contributing.
Well, I think people lose sight of, they think success is finite, that there's an end to it, when it's truly infinite. And there's enough success for everyone, and it's enough success for it to go around for everybody to feel like they're getting what they need. But for whatever reason, I think people get so close-minded on the fact of like, oh, I don't want this person to be successful or this or that. And then it turns into like a bad energy system for you.
Yeah.
Like you're rooting against shit. Like, why?
And it's a downward spiral from there.
It's awful. So I'm very much like trying to push the guys around me to realize their full potential. I couldn't be happier for like, Coach Nate. Coach Nate has Patchy Mix. He has Tatiana. There's people that he has that are world champions. Danny Davis won his first world title with Sean Strickland in his first title fight that he's ever had, right? There's Eddie Baraka. There's so many great coaches at Extreme Couture that I want them to feel that same thing that I felt with like Francis and those guys as well.
And it's not the financial reward. It's the look what we've achieved together.
100%. 100%. And that was the whole goal in the beginning, right? Like when you created this thing, and that's one of the things I am most proud about, is that we don't have a lot of turnover at our gym either. Like a lot of the coaches that we've had at our gym are like lifers, guys that have been there damn near since day one or since I took over as gym manager. But I've been at Extreme since 2006. I took over as the gym manager, I think in 2011, 12, something like that. Been there ever since.
And as a fan of Randy Couture back in the day, I remember when he opened the gym, and I can remember where it got to, and you've taken it to the next level again. So it's just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
And it's great to watch and see the success, not only of your fighters, but of yourself and the community that you've built. It's fantastic.
No, 100%. And again, that goes back to the men and women within the doors, within the walls, the coaches that we have and the culture that we breed. But Robert Follis came in and he did such an amazing job of elevating that standard and setting a standard for us. And I remember in his passing, that was the first thing that we all spoke about was how do we keep Robert's memory alive? And that was to uphold the standard that he set for not himself, but us and the gym and as a whole.
And I remember when I've been to your gym that on the wall you have the quotes, and that gets me every time because I'm a big put it on the wall. If it's important to you, put it on the wall to show people what it's about.
Yeah.
And I think that the quote that you've got up there is the man in the arena, and I'm a big believer in that quote.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, that was so I used to have the fight board. I put the fight board there and the wins and losses and the record, and we put another quote down there, and then the man in the arena went up there. I think that was after it was a Kevin Lee loss. I believe when Kevin lost to Tony Ferguson, might have been. So I just remember like the internet just going off. Like it was just such like the MMA fans can be the greatest fans in the world and they can be so awful at times too.
Yep.
And I remember just finding that quote and putting it on a canvas and putting it up. That day.
We had Ben Astron here a while back, and everyone remembers Ben getting knocked out by Masvidal, but he won 19 other fights.
Yeah, he did.
What?
Yeah.
But they all remember that 1 second.
And a world champion too. And
Yep.
Exactly.
And you sit there and just go, oh, well, that's perception.
Sure. 100%.
Yep. Well, thanks for coming down and having a chat.
Hey, man. Thanks for the invite.
No worries. Thanks for coming. We'll see you again soon.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening to It's Not About the Fight. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and keep up the hard work on and off the mat. Stay tuned for my next chat with another top coach or athlete.